Alrighty. Pushing the buttons. Man, I was having a great day today until the last, till after lunch today. I gotta say, didn't have a great day after lunch today. I'm gonna try to get over that. I don't know why. I don't know why. To rant a little bit, I don't know why communication is so dang hard for some folks. I mean, we all suck at it at some level, but uh, I don't know why people think you can work together and not communicate frequently, or just not communicate. I just okay. On to better and more positive things. So continue to work on the project here. Been making a few changes off stream, of course. Uh, One of the big ones was changing how the game was getting saved. This was a little bit of an issue that I think I was rambling about the last live stream. That if a player were to come through, play a game, make a save, and then then do something else, like try to take a risk or do something different, and then have a different save, so that you'd have these two different snapshots of their game, and maybe they want to go back. That they didn't like that. I don't think it's the kind of game where they really need to do that, but I do think that is the kind of expectation when you're saving, right? That you're getting a whole save point. So I went back through, changed the way the files are getting saved. So now if you save under a new name, it's going to grab all the important save files, duplicate them, stick them in a new folder. So you can now safely load both of those different save files. Um, you know, Neither here nor there. But one of the things that's happened, I don't know if it was because of that, or if I broke something and just hadn't tested it. Right now, when you go to load a game, the scene transitions, but then it pauses. And so I want to dig into that a little bit. My guess is it's either an order of operations, something that got changed, or we're just missing some data. No errors getting thrown, but we're just freezing. We're not freezing. We're loading, and then nothing happens. So I do want to take a look at that. See where exactly we are getting stuck. So I'm going to put some breakpoints in here. We'll look around and figure out where we can put some breakpoints in. So here's a load over time, and I'm just going to trace backwards here. So this is what's actually doing this messy function. I was trying to make this neater. I should make it neater. It's one of those things where right now it's working, so we're going to leave it. Anyways, we're just gonna trace this one back here. Let's change screens here too. There we go. All right, we're just gonna kind of go work our way backwards, putting in breakpoints. And where do I really want to? The other place I want to go to is start. Let's see, what is the name of that menu? I always forget what the name of that piece of code is. Start scene buttons. Very clever. All right. So we're just going to follow through. So this is the button that's not working. We're loading game. Actually, that is not the one that's not working. Save load menu. This is the one where we are not working. So load button. Let's take that. We're going to load file. So that's working. I know this is working because the window does close. Save and load file. Okay, this is where I thought we might end up. All right, we got a breakpoint there. So we'll see. Let's see where we are, where we're not getting to. And then I think I want to work on once this is up and running, this will enable, so now once this is up and going, we can load a campaign, we can switch between different colonies. All that information of how many colonies we have, that's saved, that's stored, that's all working, which is great. All right. So I think the next big piece that I want to work on is how to simulate a colony when it's not active. It's not the one the player has on the screen. All right, so let's go here. We're going through new campaign. Great, great, great. Okay, we get over here to load async. Pretty sure we're getting to this. Yep. Okay, so we should have, we check here. Okay, so the start scene is not loaded. The loading colony scene is going. That's the loading scene. Now we're going to load scene 1, which is the main game scene. Let's just make sure we get past that async step. There we go. I think it was just a loss of focus. All right, so we're loading the game scene. That's what's supposed to be happening. Okay, that loaded. That's great. We're gonna step through, step through. All right, on to the next one. So this is where I made some modifications just last night. So this may be, it may just very simply be a typo. We're just gonna check all these paths, make sure we have, okay. Oh, here we go. Yep. Bet you here's our issue right here. Okay, so again, the naming here is not awesome. I don't love it, but here we are. We're setting our colony path to this. It's putting it in the new campaign, blah, blah, blah. Save game / new campaign / temp file. And this temp file thing, I'm not 100% sure I needed it, but I was getting a lot of sharing violation errors. And so I'm getting around that, or at least something I saw as a suggested way to get around that was to copy folders and then load from the copy. So right now we are, let's make sure we've got our, yeah, okay. So we're taking this file and putting it in here. So this actually needs to be a colony path there. Those two things need to match. Okay, so that could definitely be an issue. Let's see if we have anything else that's obvious here. Oh, that may not actually be a problem. Oh, shit. Yeah, okay, so here's what's happening. We're just getting stuck. So I'm pretty sure what's happening is we are not getting, so this is just, yeah, I don't love this function. It it might just need a refactor to fix this. What I'm trying to do is make sure that any old save files, which are just a colony save file, can still be loaded. That's what I'm trying to do, is make sure that any old save files can still be loaded. That's also a little bit of error protection too. If for some reason, yeah, we want to make sure we can load both campaign files and colony files. And so we've got a little bit of messiness here. Checking if the file is locked. Again, this was like sharing violation stuff. It's probably overkill, but I wasn't able to replicate the sharing violations on my end. I was just getting error reports, automatic error reports of sharing violations. All right, so we know we're getting in here. Let's get rid of these other breakpoints. We don't need those. Let's go figure out what's going on. So I think what's happening is easy save, which is the asset that I'm using for the saving and loading. I don't think it's not throwing an error when the file's not found. It's just, which is a bit of a bummer that it's not throwing an error. I wonder if it's got a, maybe it has a warning. I got one warning hidden there. Oh, I got a lot of warnings in there now. I do need to spend some time just cleaning these up. These just seem to kind of grow the Unity project. And I think the default behavior of many of us is we just turn the warnings off. Okay. So once again, here we're looking at this. We've made this temporary file. We made this temporary file. We can even pull it up here and we can see it. Okay, there's our temporary file. It's fairly small. It is a campaign file. So we're going to come in. Why did you bump back up to there? That's weird. What? They did that last time too, and I just thought I removed my breakpoint. This actually can just be, doesn't need to be awaitable. Huh. Let's put a breakpoint in there too. We'll just keep putting, this is weird. Okay, so we get our breakpoint here. We're going to go in. Okay, so I must be doing something. What in the world did I do that's weird there? All right, let's break this out a little bit. Let's, okay. If this key doesn't exist, return false. I know I missed one there. Okay. Bool is campaign. We're just going to make it a little bit more debuggable here. So what I'm curious is am I giving it some weird ass full path here that doesn't. I wonder if, am I passing in a path that doesn't exist? I don't know. It's nice that Easy Save like handles the errors pretty gracefully. I am suspicious that I'm doing something. There you go. File not found. Okay. There we go. There we go. There we go. File not found. Why was it going to save file ES3? So it was. Oh, okay. Here we go. Here we go. I didn't put in a full. That's okay. That's where we were. That's where we were erroring out. Because if you don't give it a path name, it defaults to. Again, this is where it handles things kind of well. If you don't give it a full path, it defaults to a default save name, which I guess is fine. Like I would rather have it just say boop. You know, like it doesn't feel like that should be an overload or an override. Okay, this makes sense. This could be the issue. This function is campaign file. I put that in last night, which is when the error started popping up. So hopefully it's that easy to fix and we can get on to more interesting and more challenging things. Yeah, the idea of like, so the next more challenging piece is going to be, all right, let's see here. Okay, cool. Okay, we made it past that is campaign file. Okay, now we're, okay, so now we're not booting out. That's interesting. I swear I didn't see that error in there. So, okay, we have data. We should be loading now. Makes me kind of wonder if, I mean, I guess it's in there, but it makes me wonder if putting that in a, there we go, we're loading data. Putting that in a try catch would make sense just in case. Well, that's cool. We're still getting. Okay, so we still have some errors. So it did load, but it didn't find, what it didn't find was the game file. So let's figure out where, or the colony file. So let's look at 609. And, all right, well, let's backtrack. Where did we call that from? 428. Okay, so this needs to be colony path. Right. Okay. Yeah, so this is pretty messy. And again, the sharing violations caused me to kind of bloat this uh, function, because what I'm doing here, the reason I'm reaching into the colony name is I'm copying it. I'm copying the file. All right, let's see. And what I'm doing, and so what I have to do, so if what I've loaded is a campaign file, then we have to go in and get the current colony. So whatever colony the player was on last, we got to go get that, we duplicate it, and then we load from the duplicate. I wish those sharing violations were a little easier to debug. From what I could see, it really was pretty tough to figure out why the sharing violation was occurring. All right, we don't need a breakpoint there anymore. We know that's working. Okay, we are still. Okay, we're still. All right, let's go take a look and see if we've at least got the right file name. So this, so we've got a GUID. It's 445454, which does not exist in there. Does it exist in? Yes, it exists in that one. Oh, interesting. Well, so this is a different issue. So, um, what's happening is I have new campaign, and new campaign two, and new campaign two is a second save. So it has two colonies. However, here on the new campaign file, we have both of those campaigns, or both of those colonies, listed and saved, which means so we were saving our campaign file too early. Let's confirm that everything else is working, because I think I know where that's going on. That's a little bit of a mess. I'm a little disappointed to see that reared its head, because there was definitely some. I don't know. I find loading and saving stuff. You have all these different kind of race conditions. It's challenging sometimes to get it to behave in the right order. So let's try it. We'll just reload campaign 2. This should load into. I think it'll load into what I'm referring to as a barren world, just rocks. We'll see if that loads. And if this is loading, then we know our loading process is good to go. It's not. Son of a. Oh, interesting. Okay, so we're just not saving. Well, I guess we're fixing this today, aren't we? Well, that's that file. Actually, so let's look at. Okay, there's our colonies. It's always something. All right, let's put a breakpoint in there and see what's going on. So we know that one case we were trying to load a file that doesn't exist. In this case, that's just the easiest way to get there. Settings, tools, there it is. All right. We know that in the campaign 2 folder, there are 2 colony files. These are colony files. This is the one it was trying to load, 454, or ending in 454. That was the one it was trying to load. So we know that's there. But why in the world? That's not what I wanted you to do. Why are we... Okay. Campaign 2, reloading campaign 2. I got my breakpoint in there. Okay. Okay. So, new campaign. Oh, I know what's going on. I know what's going on. I have out-clevered myself a little bit. So we're going to do... Let's actually, before I do that, let's go take a look at every place this is getting used. Actually... Okay. Love looking over and seeing 0 viewers. It's delightful. It's delightful. All right, so we're loading all these tiles. We should... No, we're still... Why? It's like what my day at work felt like today. I was just like, okay, we're there. No, we're not. Nope, not there. Nope, not there at all. Okay, okay, so we're not. Okay, this needs to be colony path as well. Okay. Da, 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 da. I mean, it doesn't really need to be that. But this, no, wait. That doesn't need to be that. This needs to be colony path. That's the file we're actually copying. Okay, so this is the line that's failing. Fifth, sixth time the charm? You never know. Okay, cool. We actually hit another breakpoint. I didn't even know that breakpoint was in there. So now we are clearly, we're loading data. There we go. Okay, now we're actually loading tiles in. Okay, great. So I think there was a couple errors in there, all of them related to file paths, which is what got changed. So that makes me feel pretty good. Okay, fantastic. Awesome. So that's loading in. That looks pretty good. I like it. All right. The next piece is tricky. So what I need to be able to do is collect all the data from a colony in terms of its production. So I need to go look at various things. So one of the things that we have right now is over here. If you highlight it, so if you go through a day or so, you can go over here and you can see how much is stored, but you can also see how much was used or how much was produced. You can see both of those from over here. So we're already gathering that data, and that's how I want to do. I think it's realistically my only way of simulating a colony while it is not loaded like this. Same kind of thing, these resources here. So I think actually that might be a good place to go in and start doing some modifications. It might be a nice starting spot. So if I hover over it, you can see how much is remaining. We could add a line in there of how much was used that given day. So, because what we're going to have to do is get totals for how much are used on a given day, and then average those out over 2, 3, 4, 5 days, and then use that to simulate the colony while we're gone. I want to keep it relatively simple. I'm not worried in this case about overly accurate values. If somebody wants to calculate it and say that, this iron ore deposit should have lost 500 instead of, 480, great, they can do that. But that's what I want to do. I need to start gathering that data and figuring out how to store that data, what kind of data container that's going to look like, so that we can both save it to our save file, our colony save file, I think we want to put that in our colony save file. We might want to put that in our campaign save file. It's possible. I think it probably makes sense to put it in the colony save file. And then once we have that data saved, then we can simulate. And I think this is the last kind of remaining technical challenge. I mean, of course, there will be bugs and things that come up, and it'll take some time to solve. But I think this is the last kind of technical challenge for this project, for this game. Okay, so let's look at, I'm pretty sure we have a resource tile. Yep. I think this is a good place to start. So I'm going to get rid of a whole bunch of this other stuff that we were working on. We're going to try to focus in on this piece here. And then so here we go. Start in resource amount. So we're tracking how much we started with, how much we currently have. That's great. All right, let's also look up, that's simple enough. Let's look up our hex tile manager. This is the one that is dealing with all the tiles, and it is implementing this iSave data. So it is already saving the data. And I am curious, I want to go see what that looks like with this, those resource tiles. So here's our save. Okay, so here we go. We hit this. If we're jamming this into hex tile data, which is great. So we have a data structure that's holding this, and we're getting the resource amount, how much we actually have left, and that's it. That's all we're grabbing from that. Okay. So this is where we can get access to it. This is where we can take that data and put it into a save file so we can access it later. Yeah, this is just, it's a little bit of a tricky issue here. A little bit of a tricky issue. Because we also want this data to we also need this data to be somewhere that we can access quickly and easily. We don't want to be iterating. So let's look at what the load looks like. So load over time. All right, so again, when we're loading, we're just doing this try get component. And then we're setting the resource to this from the saved amount. Because what I'm kind of envisioning, and maybe that's the place to start, is the code that's doing the simulation. So what I'm imagining is there's some class, a manager script, if you will, sitting in the project that has a data type for each colony. It's got a data container for each colony, and in there is all of the resource tiles. We'll just start with resource tiles. It's all the resource tiles, how much they have in them, and then how much they are, how much is getting used every day. And then in, I don't know, some sort of reasonable time chunk, we update those values. We update those values, and from there, yeah, it's just a, what a, I mean, the other design choice here could be, I mean, it just, yeah, it seems like you got to simulate the, it seems like you got to simulate this. I was gonna say the other design choice could be that when you're out of a colony, it produces infinitely. I mean, realistically, if we're honest here, how many people are going to play this game? I don't know. How many people are going to play this game, get this far, and be like, "Ooh, the resources are infinite." If I'm not there, I don't know, but I don't like it. I don't like that as an easy out. But structuring this data, that's a little challenge. I'm gonna take a real quick break. I'll be back in 3 minutes at most.
Director, we need to choose a location for our headquarters. Once we do that, we can start to generate energy, pump water, grow food, and build mines. There's an ore deposit nearby. I suggest we build a mine there. With basic industrial resources being produced, we now need to provide for our workers. They'll need both food and water.
We're picking up the strange energy signature from beyond the edges of our colony.
It looks like the enemy may have dropped some kind of resource. The corporation has a new collection tower that might be useful. With this new resource, we should now be able to create some tags of new landmass. This should allow us to expand and be more productive.
All right, back to this conundrum here. So there's yeah, I guess a couple issues that I'm thinking about here. There is the getting the data into the colony simulator, if you will, and then making sure that we're updating the data in the correct place when we then save the game. So that is a challenge. Right, because we have to get the data going both directions, and that is where some of the challenge, and we need to put this together in a good way. Okay. Just playing with a few things. All right. And these tiles do have a unique position. They have a unique hex position, which is 3 integers. So that's pretty easy to associate. It's pretty easy to find that object, right? I've got a dictionary with all those hex coordinates and reference to the object itself. So in terms of like sending the data back and forth, that's one way to do it. Well, let's start with the easy piece. Let's just take a step back and maybe I'm a big fan of sometimes you step away from the problem and your brain solves it while you weren't looking. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back over here to the resource tile script. And what I think we want to do is do something like we're going to do serialize. We're going to do list of integers, consumption. Sure. Okay. It's not. There we go. All right, we're gonna have a list of integers, which is going to be our consumption. So every day we're going to look at how much we've consumed. So we're just going to have another amount here, not all that garbage, int amount yesterday. Okay. So we're going to do amount yesterday equals resource amount like that. Great. Okay. We'll just make sure that gets initialized. And then what we're going to do is come in here and go day night manager. Let's do toggle day. New day. Okay. So now what we're going to look at is int amount consumed. That's going to be amount yesterday minus resource amount. So how much we had yesterday minus how much we had right now. Then we're going to go consumption, add amount consumed, something like that. And then we're going to also do amount yesterday. We're going to update this to the current amount. Okay, nice and simple. If consumption count is greater than, actually, so let's not make this a list if we're going to do it that way. We're going to do we'll do a queue. enqueue that value. If the consumption count is over, let's say 5, I think that's reasonable. Then we're going to do consumption and we're going to dequeue. Is that really what I want to do? I don't think it is. Maybe I think I'm trying to be, I'm being too fancy here. Let's stick with a list. All right. Okay, we're going to do that. All right, so then once we've got that updated, we're going to loop through. This isn't the best way to do it. Consumption per day is going to, we're just going to plus equal. We'll clear that up here in a minute. Consume per day equals 0. Oh, sorry. All right, so then we can track our consumption per day. And this is the value that, in my mind, this is the value that we're going to save. We are doing integer divided by integer, so let's make that, we'll make that a float. That's fine. I was thinking for simplicity, we keep it as an integer since we can only use integer amounts of our resource. But I think we can maybe avoid a few issues and maybe have a dash more accuracy when we can round it later. Okay, so consume per day, we do that. That's great. All right, I guess we don't need to have that plain anymore. I like the look of that. It's really, really gray, but I like the look of that scene. I need to work on the lighting a little bit. I had the lighting fairly dialed, and I lost some data in a version control revert or something. But I like the general look of it. All right, so tile tooltip. I was curious about the tile tooltip, how I had dealt with that. So where are we? Okay, so if resource tile, we get the remaining amount. So this is what I was curious if I wanted to if I wanted to add something to that tooltip since we're now tracking how much we're consuming per day, maybe that's that's a useful measure for the player. I don't know that it is. Okay. And this also updating this also gives me a way to an in-game way to check and make sure that this consumption is working. Let's see if that works. I'm gonna skip the whole loading scene. We're just gonna go right into a game. All right, so we just want to test and see if we are. Okay, so there we go. We can make this full screen. Okay, so used per day is 0. So the a little bit of a bummer here is we're going to look at that number doesn't update in real time, which I think makes sense. So let's speed things up here. I think maybe I don't want to show that until we have a non-zero value. Okay. Perfect. We used negative amounts per day. Fantastic. Awesome. I didn't think that code was going to be particularly error prone, but apparently so. All right, there we go. Okay. So we're back in here. Consumption has 1. For some reason, we used negative amounts. Amount yesterday, 898. Amount consumed was 6, right? Oh, I see what happened. I know what happened. Okay, so yeah, right here. Set amount based on location. So unfortunately, I set it in 2 different places. Amount yesterday equals resource amount. Okay, that should fix that. That should fix that goofiness. Let's just follow out our reasoning here. Again, we've got these. Okay, so it's going to do it for everyone. Great. I guess what I should do is we should just, if amount consumed equals 0, it's an integer, so that's a nice safe thing to do. We can just return. There's no reason to, well, let's do it this way. And if consume per day equals 0. Basically, so like if we, right, if we all of a sudden stop consuming, we still want to update this value. But if we're already at 0, if the average is 0 and today was 0, we don't need to do anything more. I think that is a reasonable, no need to update it. Like nothing's happening. So we don't need to, we don't need to add to our list. We don't need to remove things from our list. We don't need to do all this work. Okay. What I do want to think about, what I didn't like there was, this is really long. It's a lot of text. Would it be reasonable to say just to move per day over here and get rid of it like that? I think that implies, I think that's close enough. I think that implies well enough. All right, so let's double check that that's all working, and then we'll start thinking about the next step. And again, I think this is the most important piece here, is in terms of the simulation, when the player returns, like nothing's going to happen to the buildings. Like we're not simulating combat. We're not simulating anything like that. Yeah, we're not going to simulate combat. We're just going to be doing resources, which I think is totally fine. I don't know how I could realistically simulate combat, and I mean, I guess it could be cool if, you're off on another colony and you get a warning that your other colony has taken damage. Um, you know, oops, I got my pluses still in there. Okay, that's easy to fix. All right, we are up and running. We'll start our spawn and we will see if those have reasonable numbers next time. All right. And there we go. 5 per day, 5 per day, 2 per day. Doesn't seem entirely realistic. Oh, you know what? I didn't save this. Oh well. I mean, I guess that was a pretty short day. And we're only extracting one at a time. So those numbers seem reasonable. Okay. We extracted from each of those. That's great. Okay, yeah, those numbers seems reasonable. All right, so that's getting consumed. And all I've done is delayed the process of, now how do I deal with this data? Let's rename this update consumption. Let's resource consumption. Give it a little bit better name. All right. I also need to think about how I test this. So again, thinking more about the saving, if I come back here to the hex tile manager, this is where we're loading all this stuff over time. Here's where we load the resource amount. So things that we need in here are, it would be reasonable here to, in this data, if we stored the consumption, that would be helpful. We store the consumption per day. And then what we also need somewhere in our files is well, we need how many days we simulated, because then we can figure out how much to remove when we load this. Yeah, it's the data container. It's a tricky piece. So that works. And so what I'm thinking about now is where do you, so in the simulation, you need to know, you also need to know all that information. And I'm hesitant here to make my hex tile manager responsible. I mean, it shouldn't be responsible for simulating this stuff. Huh. Makes my brain hurt. I mean, it's probably. I guess I might be focusing on the wrong things. So I think having the data tidy and organized is probably the number one factor that I'm looking at right now. We need to get it functional, and then if there's some sort of performance issues, then we look at that. So I think what that means is I need to have all this data in one place. So we're going to look here at tile hex data. This is our data container for each tile. And then we're going to look at float consumption per day. Okay. We do something like that. We're just going to do this slowly because my brain feels like it's slow. And we're going to go hex tile data consumption per day equals resource tile consumption per day. Okay, so that's saved. Now it's saved. Okay, that might be good enough. That might be good enough right now that we just save that value. What I'm wondering about is then when we're loading. Okay, so we'll do this. We'll do resource tile set consumption rate. And we're going to go data consumption per day like that. All right. All right. And then what we're going to do is we are going to go say consumption. We're going to clear consumption. Just make sure it's clear. And then we're going to do say for days to track. Like that. We're going to say consumption add consumption per day. Like that. And so what we're going to do is just artificially, we're going to take that average and we're going to populate the list with it. That way we're not having to save that list. I think that's fine. I don't think that's going to really cause any substantial problem. We're going to take that 5. I had it hard coded as a 5 here, but let's put it as a variable since we're using it in 2 places now. That seems reasonable. Okay, so when we load it, we add in consumption per day. We're going to round int. That's fine. Again, we're looking for good enough simulation, not perfect simulation at this point. You know, if there was a team of 20 of me working on this, maybe we'd work on something more particular. All right, so we've got that. So we can load and save our consumption rate, which is good. Okay. While I'm remembering, let's go into easy save and update that file type for the hex tile data. Make sure that other variable is added in there. Hex tile data. And let's add that consumption per day. Oop. Cool. That should do the trick. All right. Now let's look at, now we need to, so now we have some data saved. Now that we have some data saved, let's look at how to simulate that data. So let's go into scripts. Let's add a new, we're going to add in a new folder. Campaign. I stuck in the wrong spot. Okay. All right. Colony simulator. Could be a game all on its own. All right, so this is going to do a bunch of different things. This is going to go grab all that hex tile data out of our save files and stick it in a, it's going to stick it in a collection. So let's make that collection first. So we're going to have a dictionary. We're going to have a dictionary, and we're going to do by string, and then we're going to have a list of hex tile data, which is probably, it's in, okay, it's just inside. Okay, colony simulator. Let's do hex tile data equals hex tile manager, hex tile data. There we go. Okay, and just make things a little bit easier. Hex tile data. Colony tile data. Okay. Then what we need to do is basically on we want to load this data when we can. So again, this is where we might be in control of some sharing violations, where we might have some collisions here where we're trying to grab data off of multiple save files, which we want to be careful of that. So what I need to do is let's go back and look at our save load manager. And what we have is load complete. So on load complete, we need to basically grab all this data. I think that's when we want to do it. So on enable, save load manager, load complete, load colony data, colony tile data. Oops. I feel like Copilot's not doing anything today. Let's go look and make sure we know when this is actually getting invoked. All right, that's getting invoked at the very end of load over time, which is great. Which is what we want. We also have new campaign name, which is great. So that's getting broadcast. All right. And with the campaign name, we can then load the data. Because we know where to get that now. So let's go grab, I think this is actually public. Directory path, great. Colony, okay, colony. Okay, colony path is going to equal campaign name plus, that's not true. Save load manager, directory path, plus campaign name. And here we're going to grab a string. We're going to grab a list of strings, colony names. Okay. I'm violating some of my save and load framework, whatever you want to call it. Because basically essentially the only class that has any control of loading and saving is load save manager. But we're going to end up doing some loading and saving here. Just because we kind of have to. I think it's the only way we're going to be able to do that. And I'm actually going to make this public. Because we're going to want to get into that. Make it static. Oop. Static. Read only. Just for easy access. We don't want it changing anyways. I think that's okay. Okay, so load colony tile data. This is where things get a little bit more spicy. So if campaign name is null or white space. Return. Let's put in an error there, actually. Debug log error. No campaign name. No campaign name. Can't load tile data. Great. I've come to appreciate putting in error messages with checks like this, as opposed to just returning, right? I could just return and be like, oh, okay, we don't have a tile name, so we can't do it. This lets me know what's going on, and it's just better. Okay, so first off, we're gonna say down here, we're gonna do a bool try load colony names. Okay. All right, so this is what we want here. Colony names, we don't actually want to get it from here. We just want to get, all right, we're gonna make this one. Like that, so get colony names, okay. Actually, we want to grab both those. We want to get the current colony as well as all the colony names, because we don't want to simulate the colony that we are currently in. I just grabbed the wrong one. Well, actually, do we need to save that actually? Because it is all that information is available here, and we're doing it after save, so that doesn't need to happen. All right, let's go grab. I'm gonna grab a reference to campaign manager, CM. All right, we're gonna put it down here, CM. If that is null, then we're gonna do find first object of type. Wrong one. Campaign manager, like that. Great. I'm going to ignore this for now because, okay. Campaign manager equals null. Actually, let's just, I think we're pretty safe there. Okay. This colony names is going to equal do I not have a way to get that? Oh, and it's a hash set too. Okay. Let's just make this public. We don't need a property on getting a property. I don't think that's. I think that's okay. We're gonna make this. This is a hash set. We're gonna copy that name just so we don't so we're not doing anything funny with it. We're going to say this current colony, don't have that name, I don't have that yet, equals current colony, like that. Then we're going to do, what do we call that thing? Okay, colony tile data. We're going to clear the dictionary. And then I think we have to do a for each. For each colony in colony names, we're going to do colony path plus colony plus ES3. That's our path to the actual save file, which is the thing I screwed up left and right in the other thing. So we'll see if this actually works. And then we're going to have a list of hex tile data, colony tile data, colony tiles. And first off, we're going to do ES3 file exists, file path. This is a nice little safety check. I'll probably remove some of these error logs, but for now, I think it's going to help. Okay. If key exists, and this is where we go to hex tile manager tile save path, and we're going to the file path. Okay, so if the file exists and the key exists, we are then going to load that data. Like so, okay, why? Yeah, okay. And then we're going to say, what do we call this? Colony tile data add. We're going to add the colony name as the key, and then we're going to add the colony tiles like so. I have some concerns about efficiency of not even necessarily what I've done here. This is happening once, right when we load a colony. That That I'm not so concerned about. I'm still concerned about having this giant list of hex tile data and potentially having to iterate through it to find my resource tiles. That is not. But again, maybe we can get around that. Maybe we can cache a collection of integers that just store our indices of all of those things, so we can quickly grab them. That might do it for us. So I'm gonna put a breakpoint there because I don't know that this is actually gonna. Let's put one in. Let's put one in there. We'll go back in here to our game. Do we have some errors? Nope. Hey, we're actually working. We're in our game scene. I'm going to add my colony simulator there. And this is why I needed to have that loading working. Even if the loading's still a little buggy, we needed to be able to load. So we're going to go back to the start scene. We're going to try to load campaign 2. And hopefully what we'll see is we'll hit that breakpoint twice, or the second breakpoint twice, as we're loading. As we're loading this in. Of course, now you'll hit the breakpoints. Okay, great, thanks. All right, we'll try that again. I think I've said it before on stream. I swear Visual Studio and Unity are getting along worse recently than they have in a while. They still, it's like they kind of work, they kind of get along, but they kind of don't get along. And I've noticed this just, yeah, like the breakpoints don't hit. Now they do. Okay, cool. Campaign. Okay, that's not null. Can we find a campaign manager? Yes, we can. Campaign names. Okay, we got all of our campaign names. Those look, there's the 454. I at least remember that one. Current colony. Great. File path. That is the correct file path. The file exists. And we have loaded in all of our colony data. That's fantastic. And our now colony, how the balls does this work on the first go? Well, shit balls. I did not expect that to work from the get-go. All right, I'm sure there's gonna be some snags there. We probably actually need to, let's see, when does actually load campaign? This is what I'm thinking of, is load complete. How often is that gonna run? Is that gonna that is gonna run? I think that's gonna run. Anytime. I think that's gonna. Well, let's try it. I guess we can experiment with it later. What I'm wondering about was, will this run every time we load a new colony, which is actually I think what I want it to do, so that we always have refresh data. All right. Next thing we're gonna do, I think I do want to do what I was talking about of caching a list of integers. Colony resource. Resource. Let's tell us resource tile indices. Okay. Okay, so we're just going to process that as soon as we get it. This is potentially slow. So let's look at our data type. So we've got tile type. So what's potentially slow here is we don't want to do, well, let's see. We could just do this by type. I was thinking we might have to do the resource tiles. I think we're going to have to iterate on this a little bit because I don't want to be doing get component resource tile with any real frequency. A map could easily have 100 or 200 resource tiles. And so we shouldn't be doing that on any, we don't want to be calling get component that many times on any regular basis. So we might just keep adding to our collections here so that we're caching this information. We might do it the kind of the dirty way first, and then we'll see if we can clean this up. So let's try. How ugly can we get here? For tile data count. And let's just make this a little bit easier so I don't have to keep typing tile data. Oops. No, I'm not going to try to make one of them plural, one of them singular. I'm wondering if this is maybe my fastest way to. What I'm trying to look at here is organizing them by consumable resources versus not. Wait, did I somehow get double? I did. Or I think I did. Oops. This needs to come down to there. Okay, let's see if we missed any. Okay, we didn't miss any. So it's ugly. I don't like it, but I think that's a fast way to sort these. And then potentially this, actually, we just need to go to continue like that. Okay, let's create this new list that we're going to add to it. Actually, we just want to do it like this, don't we? We want to add colony, and then we add the indices like that. And then we just add that index like that. I'm going to put this down at the bottom. I don't think it matters. It's a reference type. It shouldn't matter, but like that a bit better. Okay, so that gets us all of our resource indices. That we go screaming through that. The switch statement should be reasonably quick. The tile data coming in, I mean, it can be very, very large. It can be tens of thousands. I think we max out at like 50, almost 50,000 tiles if the player was to have something on every empty space. But I don't think that's crazy. Okay, so that's our that's that. I'm wondering, I was thinking about doing a whole nother dictionary, but that seems silly. So we're going to do a private struct, or let's make it a class. Class resource tile data. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a public int indice index resource tile. And I don't think we need to have any sort of let's look at this thing. Do I need to actually take this? I think for now that's okay. So what I actually want to do, we're going to make this a list of resource tile data like that. Yeah, and here, so we don't actually have reference to the actual tile object. Yeah, this might be getting to be something that we need to think about how often we're doing this and how we keep this data up to date so that we're not having to do all this loading. I mean, we'd potentially only do it when we load a new colony, so that's not a big deal. I don't think it's going to be that slow. We're not looking at 30 seconds worth of work here. But we do need to grab. I'm starting to run a little short on time, aren't I? All right, hex tile manager. I should be. Maybe I just haven't had anywhere else where I've had to get these things. So hex tiles. Okay, let's find where we're getting. I feel like we have to have had a. Okay, we can get hex tiles. That's not really what I want to do. All right, there we go. I'm really surprised that I don't have that. I don't have that somewhere else, but all right. Oh, because it's I made it. Yeah, I totally have it. I just didn't. That's bad. I just lost track of where I put that. Let's look here. Did it? There we go. Let's just get rid of that one. I don't need that. guess we don't really need this, do we? We can just run. Okay. That's easier to look at. Okay, so again, getting complicated. Get resource. Let's rename those too. We're not just getting indices anymore. Resource tiles. But I do think it's good that we are caching these. We have these. We're not going to have to look this up every time we do this. Just when we are loading a colony. Just make sure we clear that so that if we're loading multiple, we don't save redundant data on there. All right, let's put a breakpoint in here. Of course, you don't want to you don't want to find it for me. That's fine. I want to see if I just want to make sure we can get through that, make sure that we've loaded all those resource tiles there. We've got that cached. And then that by itself is a pretty good step for today. I might do a little bit more work, but I think that's a pretty good place to be. Let's see, are you going to cooperate with me and let me put a breakpoint in now? Nope, still not. Thanks. I think if I pop over there after the game scene is loaded, maybe it'll let me do it. Yep. All right, now you're gonna let me do it. All right, cool. Actually, you jump down there. No campaign name, can't load data. It's very interesting. All right, we did get the campaign name, but we just didn't get it in time. All right, let's change some of that initialization. Well, that doesn't really matter. All right, we're gonna solve someone taking another break real quick. I'll be right back.
Director, we need to choose a location for our headquarters. Once we do that, we can start to generate energy, pump water, grow food, and build mines. There's an ore deposit nearby. I suggest we build a mine there. With basic industrial resources being produced, we now need to provide for our workers. They'll need both food and water.
We're picking up the strange energy signature from beyond the edges of our colony.
It looks like the enemy may have dropped some kind of resource. The corporation has a new collection tower that might be useful. With this new resource, we should now be able to create some tags of new landmass. This should allow us to expand and be more...
All right, let's see if we can do this quickly here. I need to go out and go for a bike ride. Oh, good. Oh, good, oh, good. Leave my only viewer disappears. All right, so what we need to look at here is we're just not setting the campaign name, which seems reasonable. Because we are getting into here. We should have set our campaign name here. That should have happened. Okay, let's just, I mean, no, that's not what I want to. It's definitely getting set. I just don't know why it wouldn't. It doesn't make sense to me that it's not getting set, because here we're invoking this, we're setting, and then down here is where we do our load complete. So it's very much a... should very much be happening in the correct order. Yeah, so here we are invoking. Great. Here we are over here. Campaign saved. Here we are on our colony simulator, setting the campaign name. Yeah, that's all like to be expected. We load our data. And campaign name, it's there. Okay, that bothers me that it worked once, but not, or it didn't work once and now it is working. That's the kind of bug I really, really don't like. All right, so here we are. We're in here. Great. We're loading our colonies. Okay, this is what I wanted to see. Oh, there we go. Okay. Object not set to... Oh, I'm just being dumb. Yeah, I'm just like I just totally overthought this in a yeah. Yeah. All right, I might just be getting a little foggy in the head here. I'm loading data from every colony in this campaign. Of course, I can't get the tile because the tiles only exist for the current colony. So that's just dumb. But okay, so what I really want to store is I just want to store the hex tile. I want to store the hex tile data because that gives me, yeah, that's just dumb. Okay, because if I store that tile data, then I have access to the resource amount and the consumption per day. Like I have reference to that. Most notably, I need the consumption per day. The tile type will also be useful. That's all good. Yeah, there's yeah, that was just okay. Yeah, and the tile data, I think the tile data contains everything I'd realistically need. Okay, let's do one more test and then we're going to call it quits. We're just going to make sure, same breakpoints. I just want to see if these get hit in the right order. I don't know why there would be weird race conditions. All right, again, we're invoking that ahead of time. We are setting a campaign name. It's set, great. We do all of our loading. Campaign name is not null. Come down here. All right. We're going to run through all this data. And I want to put a breakpoint here. Are you going to let me? Nope. Okay. Resource tiles. Okay. Resource, that's fine. That's count as 1. This is count 40. So there's all of our tile data. Resource amount, consumption per day. We've got all that. Excellent. And then we should hit it again with our next colony. Okay. And again, there we got 260 resource tiles. It's a much more resource rich colony. And this has 2 of them in it. Awesome. All right. I definitely have some performance concerns with the way I'm doing things. I'm just going to delete all my breakpoints. Definitely have some concerns of doing that. There's no noticeable lag with doing that. I think, if you had, 100 colonies going on, this is going to be a problem. But I suspect that's going to be just fine to do this. But now we have now we have information on all of our resource tiles and how much they're consuming. So it's not that hard now we could probably, we can certainly hit this every time, at the start of every day, we can update these values. That's not going to be all that crazy. have to decide a little bit of how often we got to look and see how often we want to actually save that data to the files. If we want to save that data every day, it's probably not that big of a deal to write this data. Again, if you have 20, 50, 100 colonies, it could be, maybe it's an issue. I don't think it's gonna be too much. And frankly, if somebody plays my game that much and they break it, that's gonna be pretty awesome. I'd call that a big success. Yeah, I like it. I think it's good. I think it's a good start. We'll also have to do some simulation on, this will require more data gathering, and I think we'll do it in a similar way. This might be enough of a framework to, or enough of a template to do it with buildings as well. So I need to do a similar idea. Actually, I don't need to do it with buildings. What I think I can do is I already track how much of each resource is produced and consumed per day, and you have access to that data. So I'm already tracking that. I can probably do it in a better way. And then you just look at it as a colony as a whole. So you're not dealing with buildings as a whole, or build individual buildings, how much they're producing. Maybe you go there. That seems like overkill. And you look at the colony as a whole, like how many fuel cells is it producing? How many fuel cells is it consuming? How much food is it producing? How much food is it consuming? And then you can grow your totals that way. Yeah, I like it. All right. Well, I'm going to call it quits. I think it's pretty decent progress. I'm going to call it quits for the day. Hopefully be back next week. Maybe we'll get a few more people to join and chat. Anyways, I had fun. Hopefully be back next week.